want to thank the presenters for sharing the information that I hope has answered some of our questions. Regarding our next steps, what you need to do is take this information and share with your senators. This was a House Bill 76, and it rolled through the House, and it has become a Senate Bill 76. It hasn't yet been scheduled to be heard, but when it does, you need to provide input to your representatives to take with them for consideration when this is heard on the floor. You can also continue to submit your questions, as I indicated earlier tonight, to the web link that we've provided on our homepage for the Canon-McMillan School District. And those questions, that link actually will be active, accepting questions from all of you, the community, through the end of the day, Friday, March 3rd. And again, based on the questions submitted after 10 a.m. this morning and through the end of the day on Friday, we will forward those questions to the presenters for a response, and we'll compile the responses as well as the questions into a Q&A document that will be posted to our website under the Town Hall heading. At this point, if we can switch slides, I'd like to provide resource contact information for you. And again, as I mentioned earlier as well, this PowerPoint presentation, probably sometime tomorrow, will be posted to our website as well. So if you're not able to copy this down, it'll be available to you there. I'd like now for us to engage with the four presenters in reading the questions that were presented using that link from our website and to hear the responses. Now, some of the questions have been answered, I believe, through the course of this presentation, but we'll continue to read them anyway and get a response, even if it might be a recap of what was already said. So I'll let any of you, the presenters, chime in as I read the questions and provide a response. And I'll get started with the first one, and it is, how will this not benefit the taxpayers? Senate Bill 76.
Well, it depends on what category of taxpayer you're in. Obviously, there are benefits to those in a situation that don't pay a lot of personal income tax or very little. We shelter pensions in Pennsylvania, for example, from personal income tax. As we grow older, like myself, our personal income tends to decrease in retirement, obviously, and our purchasing decreases. So if you're in that category, this would be a benefit. If you're in other categories of working families, you may have a different impact. So again, the complexity of Pennsylvania taxes is not a one-size-fits-all, and so therefore the benefits to any proposal will have winners and losers. And clearly there are winners and there are losers in this proposal as well.
Thank you, Jake. How will the money be distributed after the second year?
I'll take another stab at that one. So from what we know from the bill introduced and discussed on the Senate floor last session, once you replace dollar for dollar a property tax, there is an escalator. The escalator is a cost of living adjustment or the change in the state sales tax collection and the state income tax collection, whichever is lower. So as Hannah indicated, with the volatility of personal income and state sales taxes, we're concerned there may be years in which there is no increase. But what happens, assuming there is an increase, those dollars will be proportionally distributed to how the original year of property tax replacement on a dollar for dollar basis occurred. So again, we lock in current property taxes, you get dollar for dollar. If there's an increase, then the increase is shared proportionally based upon where your property taxes were and how you got them replaced by the state.
Okay, if the school budget increases are dependent on increased sales tax or revenue, sales tax revenue, or Pennsylvania average weekly wage, whichever is lower, how will the state determine who gets the budget increases? Also, If wages or tax revenue are flat or in decline, does that mean no budget increases? Couldn't this create a death spiral similar to Obamacare? Finally, if budget increases are determined at the state level, doesn't that suggest Harrisburg would be picking school district winners and losers?
So, Jay sort of answered part of that question earlier, but so this would work that as it sort of locks in your property taxes or the replacement of your property taxes in year one. It provides an annual adjustment after that based on that amount. So everybody's going from the sort of whatever their base was with the adjustment on an annual basis. The drafts that we have seen of the prior iterations of the bill sort of had language that said school districts shall get this amount. It didn't really provide any sort of guidance what happens if if the state isn't generating enough personal income tax or sales tax to provide that. It didn't provide information about what happens if the personal income tax, the sales tax don't grow annually, and so if there is another decline economically, what happens then, and how are school districts receiving the amount that they should receive going forward. So there certainly are some questions about that and how that would work under this proposal.
Okay, so where will the money come from if corporations are no longer required to pay property taxes? This seems like the burden is now being placed on individuals using the false narrative that increased corporate budgets will lead to more hiring and therefore more sales tax revenue and increased taxable wages. But if these corporations don't hire more and raise wages, does the entire program go into a death spiral like Obamacare? Oh, wait a minute. Did I just read that one? Well, there are some similarities to that.
So I think that the way that this works, and we sort of walk through some of this, is obviously businesses are still going to pay some amount of sales, the increased sales tax, and some businesses will continue to pay part of the increased personal income tax. But the rest of the burden that was currently is currently carried by businesses under school property tax and the revenue that they're generating for school districts as a result of that would be shifted to individual taxpayers, and so they would likely be picking up a larger portion of this overall tax burden and the tax shift. So the amount that's shifting away from businesses is going to be picked up by individual taxpayers.
So what exactly is the increased personal tax? And why is it replacing the property taxes? We are taxed to the bones as it is. Why add more?
So the increase here, again, as we talked about, is, again, prior versions of the bill. We haven't seen the draft for this legislative session, but it increased the personal income tax from 3.07%, which where it currently is, to 4.95%. And then the sales tax goes from 6 to 7%, and we're expanding a lot of that. So certainly this, again, it's a tax shift. It's shifting away from school property taxes to personal income and sales taxes. And so intended, again, dollar for dollar shift, and so it's just sort of whether or not you prefer school property taxes or whether you prefer the other group of taxes.
Okay, so this tax change is going to affect the lower class the most. Example. A single mother who is paying rent and trying to feed and clothe her children will not receive the benefit of the drop in property tax. The landlord will, and probably won't reduce her rent. How is she supposed to make ends meet when she is paying more on sales tax and income tax, but not receiving the benefit of less property tax?
Okay, again, let me reiterate, local taxes are complicated, they're complex. And in any tax shift, which this clearly is, there are winners and losers. So we didn't say too much about renters, but renters obviously aren't going to get a property tax reduction unless their owners are going to reduce their rents, which I don't think is likely. So they don't get a property tax reduction, but they would pay the increased PIT and sales tax. And our sales tax debates are infamous in Pennsylvania. This goes back decades. We started in 1984 with a statewide referendum on a shift in taxes. That didn't go very far. In Act 1, we had referenda by 500 school districts to replace property taxes with earned income taxes. 8 school districts passed such a referendum. 493, because we had 501 school districts back then, voted against it. So again, winners and losers, renters are losers, and in sales tax discussions, there's always a concern in what the sales tax is perceived as a percent of income to affect lower wage earners the most because of the things that would now be subject to the tax, some food and some clothing. So yes, winners and losers always in a shift. And some will be bigger winners and some will be bigger losers.
Okay. Sales taxes are collected statewide. Would this mean loss of control of budgets by local school boards? How much would sales taxes increase to make up for property taxes? What of volatility caused by bad sales years? If sales taxes increase dramatically, would residents shop in other states with lower taxes? Whatever happened to casino revenues that were to be applied to lower property taxes? Would not lower income people be more adversely affected by higher sales tax?
Yikes, there's a lot of questions there. So again, a little bit about the casino background. The slots revenue was supposed to generate dollars. It was estimated to be $1 billion. We're at $660 million. It hasn't changed. Property taxes have gone up clearly since Act 1 was enacted. So unfortunately, the amount of the homestead and farmstead exclusions haven't kept up. Even though there's a lot of money coming in from gaming sources, it goes to a lot of places. Again, sales tax is always a question about the equity of the tax. Fairness and what percent of your income goes to taxes, etc., has always been an argument. We have a complex set of sales tax laws right now. Some things get taxed, some things don't. Those who don't want to see any change to sales taxes. Those that do, some of them see it would be a competitive advantage to have more sales taxes. But again, we're back to winners and losers, and the concern about lower incomes and sales taxes, lower income earners and sales taxes has been a long-standing concern.
Will distribution of tax dollars to schools be spelled out in the bill? How will financial distribution be determined? By school district income? By funds per student statewide? By services provided to students? Washington School District services a large number of handicapped students. How will this be equalized throughout of state? Cyber schools and voucher schools, how will these funds be allocated? Who makes the final decision on funding for school districts? Which office or agency in the state under this new bill? Does each school district have an appeal process regarding funding? Washington City has over 50% of their property tax exempt. How will this be addressed so as to equalize funding? Senior property owners carry a great burden with limited income and increasing taxes. Will this bill allow specific tax release to taxpayers on fixed income? Will the physical structures of these schools be provided funding to maintain and update our school buildings?
Okay, that's another workout.
I know you can follow.
This would be budgeting by Harrisburg. That's what would happen. It would be a school board, but essentially the percent of their budget represented by property taxes would become a state decision because it would be dependent upon the collection of the state personal income tax dollars and the collection of the state sales dollars. So you would see whatever percent of your current revenue is represented by property taxes. That would become a function of statewide collections in Harrisburg. It is clearly a shift from local decision makings to state decision making. Insofar as new facilities go, that is a concern we believe is in the legislation because it would require referendum approval for repairs. We don't think that's a level playing field right now because the state doesn't usually contribute vast amounts of dollars. To some of the poorer school districts, they contribute more. To wealthier school districts, they contribute less in terms of facilities. So the fact that you would eliminate the debt provision going forward, except for referenda tied to income taxes, which we're skeptical is workable, that facilities upgrades and new facilities become less and less and less.